You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions and your phone calls. Expected here. CBS Sports Radio.
The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live. SEC, ACC, and Big Ten coverage like no other. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
Hey, Jacksonville, winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com/radio today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Get your Sunday football morning started off right with the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Your Sunday morning kickoff show where we tackle your NFL lines out in the desert. A 61.2% win rate over the last 6 years. Against the spread, over, under, money line, you name it. And we dive into the world of fantasy football year-long and your DFS payouts. The only true Southern football kickoff show that talks the spreads in Vegas, your DFS and fantasy, in your year-long quest to win that fantasy football championship. Only on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. It's the Handicappers. Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Sundays, all NFL season long.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to sold.
Pop stars with auto-tune.
Yeah.
And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much, we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
Saturday mornings, 8:30 Eastern. Dixie Football Nation is back and better than ever. We've got Tony Agolini, Matt Carr, Tones Ariola, Bobby and Angelo, along with Mac McGee this fall. Dixie Football Nation heads to the gridiron, talking ACC, SEC, the Big Ten, and all the big games throughout the college football land. That's Dixie Football Nation, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, Saturday mornings on the Armchair Quarterback Show's YouTube channel, going live, or catch the instant replay.
Take the road less traveled in the newly redesigned Hyundai Santa Fe. With available H-Track all-wheel drive to help you get off the beaten path a little further together. And intuitive safety features that can help you see what's waiting around the bend. Plus, with generous room for 5 and comfortable available Napa leather seating, you can go for more drives as a family without driving each other crazy. Find new adventures together in the Hyundai Santa Fe.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
Take me out to the ball game.
Get caught up with the big stories from around the world of sports in just a few minutes. Take me out to the ball game today, weekdays. Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube. Baseball, football, basketball, whatever's trending in the world of sports, it's on Take Me Out to the Ball Game today in just a few minutes. It drops weekdays, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, as Wake Up Y'all is ending. Take Me Out to the Ball Game today on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel.
Take me out to the ball game.
The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live, covering the AFC South and NFC South along with the rest of the NFL. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
CBS Sports Radio, your home for all things sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, coast to coast. Great sports talk expected here. CBS Sports Radio.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Here are your lines out in the desert. Let's start out there in the amateur circuit tonight. College football. Navy midshipmen, they're getting 11 at the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes. The over-under's 47. Kickoff at 7:30 Eastern. And the nightcap, UNLV getting 20.5 at Nevada. The over-under is 58. Your college football slate on Saturday gets rolling in the Southeastern Conference at 3 o'clock Eastern. It's Missouri at Vanderbilt. Missouri giving up 16.5. The over-under 62.5. And at 3:30 Eastern on CBS, it's the largest outdoor cocktail party in the world as the #1 Georgia Bulldogs hunker down to take on the 4-3 Florida Gators. The line right now is Georgia by 14, the over-under 51. And at 7 o'clock Eastern, you got a pair of SEC matchups. Ole Miss, #10 in the land, at #18 Auburn. Auburn is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 66.5. Kentucky Wildcats, a 1-point favorite on the road, #12 in the country and 6-1. They're at Mississippi State. The Bulldogs and Wildcats, the over-under is 47. Your Atlantic Coast Conference takes the stage with early action. 2 games at noon Eastern. The Miami Hurricanes, 3-4 on the year, are at the #17 Pittsburgh Panthers. Pittsburgh's a 9-point favorite. The over-under is 61. Hokie High, the boys from VMI, are taking on the Ramblin' Wrecks of Georgia Tech and a hell of an engineer. Georgia Tech's a 4-point favorite at home. The over-under is 55.5. And the Florida State Seminoles invade Clemson, South Carolina. The Tigers are a 9.5-point favorite, and the over-under sits at 47. At 7:30 Eastern, the North Carolina Tar Heels are getting 3.5 at Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish and Tar Heels over-under is 62.5. Virginia travels to BYU. The Cougars are a 2.5-point favorite in the Mendenhall Bowl. The over-under sits at 64. And at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Plus, Boston College, now 4-3, is at 4-4 Syracuse. The Orangemen, 6.5-point favorites. The over-under is 50. Duke, 3-4. They're getting 16 on the road at Wake Forest. The Demon Deacons and Blue Devils, 70.5 is the over-under. And the Louisville Cardinals are at NC State, getting 6.5 points on the ACC network at 7:30 Eastern. The over-under is 58. And that's your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. Stay tuned for the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk, live from the First Coast. Good morning and welcome to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Tony Aguilini, I'm assuming you're in your car, so that means that you're already at the stadium. Are you ready for Georgia, Florida weekend?
Yeah, just, ready for the game today. It's going to be great already. Oh, wait, it's tomorrow. Excited, and we'll see what happens tomorrow, I guess.
I assume you're still going to the game, right?
As of now, yes. If something crazy happens between now and then, we'll figure something out. But as of now, yes, we're going tomorrow.
Oh, that's right. Robert Bowden Agolini is on the way, correct?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so we think we're in the clear this weekend. Probably it might be sometime next week, but anyway, so yeah, we'll see what happens. But we've got a little different plan this year. We'll probably spend the least amount of time down there as we have in a long time, probably since trying to think. We really started doing a big tailgate for Florida, Georgia in like 2000 or so, right when I was finishing up college. Before that, we would ride the JTA park and ride, which is really good if you're not looking to spend all day down there. So we're gonna do a little time machine deal and do that again. So we'll just really be down there about an hour before the game, go in and go to the game and come back after. So it really kind of a quick day.
Well, congratulations on the little one coming, and hopefully the boy, girl, do you know?
It'll be a girl. So,
okay. Hopefully she has enough sense not to come in around 3:30 Eastern.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. I thought for a minute she might do Dad a favor, not make him sit through this ass kicking tomorrow, but I guess she wants the streak to continue. So,
well, we'll get into that one second. I do want to touch on the World Series real quick. I know you got a lot going on, so you probably are going to try to keep up with it, but I know it's probably going to be difficult with Florida, Georgia, and the little one, and everything else that you got going on in your life. But Atlanta heading back home, and I swear it's so funny. The fan base is so doom and gloom, and I'm like, we did what we were supposed to do. Right. We split on the road, which means you got home field advantage. If you hold serve at home, the championship's yours. It's so funny because if it had gone the other direction, had Atlanta dropped the first one and then won the second one, the whole fan base would be like, let's go. And it reminds exactly of the Dodgers series where fans are just unrealistic. You don't sweep the World Series because, oh, by the way, the team you're playing is really damn good. So the whole thing, every single year you see all fan bases do it in general. But watching this Braves fan base, they're so fickle and flipping out over the dumbest things. Anyways, that's my take on that. What say you?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think game one was if you're going to get game one or game two, get game one, because then all of a sudden you don't have pressure like you need to win 3 in a row to, have a shot at this thing. You can win 2 in Atlanta and lose 1 and you're still Houston with an advantage. So I just think that my biggest takeaway really is from game 2 where you had the injury and then now all of a sudden, I'm sorry, was it game 1 or game? I'm with you.
Game 1 is when Charlie Morton went down it, and that was devastating. It was.
What are they going to do? What are they going to do in game 4 or maybe game 5? As far as one of these games is going to end up being a Johnny Holstaff kind of game. So.
It'll be both of them. It'll be games 4 and 5 in Atlanta, in all likelihood, are going to be bullpen games.
Yeah. So
now Max Fried has said that he would be willing to go on 3 days rest and pitch in game 5, and they've already kind of shut that down. The one thing I'll say is this: in game 2, when it was at the end of 2 innings, so I'm doing the game, so I'm kind of aware of all what's going on. They were at 43 pitches with Fried. He'd given up 5 runs. He didn't have it. And if it were me, and I was saying it at the time of the broadcast, take his ass out now and have him ready to go in 3 more days at home. Because the one thing that Fried isn't getting a chance to do in this playoffs, he's pitched all on the road. And he's not pitching well on the road. Give him a chance to pitch in front of his home crowd. And then if he pitches in game 5, the way I look at it is this. Depending on where the series is, if he pitches in game 5 and you have to go to game 7, then he would have another 2 days of rest to come in and give you maybe an inning. Okay. But they let him go a little longer. And I really wish they hadn't have done that. I'll tell you what was surprising. Kyle Wright looked very good in his 1 inning, struck out the side. Now the problem with him. We've watched him his whole young career. He'll do that, and then he'll go out and give up 7 runs the next time out. So he's literally what I always refer to in the Seinfeld. He's you're eating onions, you're spotting dimes. I don't know what the hell to believe. So he looked phenomenal, and his fastball looked phenomenal. But yeah, they did bring in Tucker Davidson off the farm to spell Morton, and Davidson was phenomenal when he pitched for Atlanta earlier in the year. They kept him down in the farm this whole time. Evidently they've kept him somewhat stretched out, so we'll see. I would assume that he's probably going to go tomorrow, and they'll try to spell something, because Drew Smiley has sucked. He has sucked, and I was hoping, pulling for him, etc. He has sucked. I mean, across the board. End rant ish. But anyways, we'll go ahead.
I saw his name a couple weeks ago, and
I'm sorry.
I saw his name a couple weeks ago, and it reminded me of John Smiley, the old Pirates pitcher from the 80s or so. But yeah, the kid they pulled up, I saw it, immediately thought that is definitely a country club name. He's got a tee time with a Hudson Swafford or something like that once this World Series is over. But hopefully the Braves can do it this weekend. At least get 2 out of 3.
He's a crafty left-hander. To be honest with you, the guy I was hoping they were going to pull up, Kyle Muller, he is, maybe he's got one of those names to you as well. But Kyle Muller, dude, he's a big country kid. He's 6'7", throws gas, and was nasty. And he was sent back down when guys got healthy. But he was very good, and I would have liked to have seen him on this playoff roster. But the problem with some of these guys are, and they're never fully transparent with it. Some of these kids are not going to be available because they put innings limits on them in an early stage in their career.
Yeah.
And so the last thing they're going to do is going to keep them stretched out during the playoffs. Some other guys like Davidson, a couple of the other kids, they've kept stretched out in case they need them. But they're not going to do that with the kid that has an innings limit, and he's hit the innings limit, and they shut him down in September just because all of a sudden you start making a run in October. They're not going to go, all right, man, let's get him stretched out again. They're going to say, no, we'll just have to, deal with what we deal with. But
yeah,
the biggest blow is Charlie Morton. I just say that's the difference between us winning it in 6 and 7, because Charlie Morton only would have played one more game. So you won the game that he started, even though you didn't pitch that long.
Right.
He only would have pitched one more game. The rest of the team's got to figure it out. The biggest thing is Max Fried. His next time out, whenever it is, it's got to be better. It's got to be better, because he's going to start getting the choke moniker. Anyways, we'll move on from that, because we'll get more into the World Series as the day goes on. Florida, Georgia, it's a 2-touchdown spread right now. Will you be able to join us at all tomorrow morning for the
yeah, I should be on for a while tomorrow. We're not headed down there till like after noon or so.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be able to be on.
So we don't have to necessarily do a deep dive today, because we'll definitely leave the show off tomorrow with Florida, Georgia. Obviously, to me, that's the big game. I know people living up in the Upes probably think it's Michigan State, but to me, Florida, Georgia is always the big game. You got Clemson, Florida State as well, which has a little more spice now that Florida State has a pulse, but it's still not a big game, because not only is Florida State not relevant, Clemson's not relevant anymore, right? So, but Florida, Georgia, it's a 2-touchdown spread. And I think the over-under was sitting around 50. Let me see where it is this morning. It was a little higher than I expected. 51. That one smells like an under to me, because that Georgia defense is so good. And I believe Georgia, no matter what people think of the Florida defense, I don't think Georgia's going to air it out. I think they're going to do the old fashioned, don't lose it type of thing. Right.
Yeah.
So what say you on this?
I think that, so for betting, I would take Georgia, and I would take the over. I've got Georgia putting up a pretty high number. I think Mullen will have some success against Georgia's defense. I think when he's got somewhat equal talent to Georgia, I think he's done pretty well, at least as far as scheming guys open, whether it was all the wheel routes last year, We were able to get the run game going a couple years ago and hit on a couple big plays. Kirby Smart seems to kind of be toying with, and I don't know if this is gamesmanship or not, but he seems to be kind of toying with how much to play JT Daniels compared to Stetson Bennett. And I guess his thought process is he has to be licking his chops with Grantham playing a lot of press and, trying to get in receivers' faces that, maybe Daniels can air it out a little bit on Saturday where Stetson Bennett can't, but it's not like Bennett has a crappy arm. Like, Bennett still has a really good arm. Georgia was up 14-0 last year before Bennett got hurt, and that and a couple other things kind of turned the momentum in that game. But I still say if that's a full crowd last year and Bennett doesn't get hurt, Georgia probably wins last year. So it's really, like you said, it's up to Kirby not to blow this. This will be a huge loss for Georgia as far as maybe mentality kind of talk goes. But on the season, though, they can drop this one and beat Alabama in the SEC championship. And ultimately, this game for them doesn't matter. They haven't won a national title since 1980. So if they can win one and lose to Florida, it's probably not that big of a deal.
Right. But the thing is, if you lose to Florida, you can't lose to Alabama.
Right. Exactly. You still gotta beat Alabama.
In some years, it's possible. But this year, I don't believe 2 losses is going to get you in.
No way in the world will 2 losses get you in this year.
You're going to have a 1-loss or no loss Big Ten team, right? ACC's out unless Wake Forest continues their miracle run, which I don't buy. Right. I'm not pulling against Wake Forest, so don't at me, Demon Deacon fans, but I'm just not buying it. A team that has looked good, and I think they're probably honestly top 12, top 10, but not top 4. And then you've got most likely you're going to get a team over in the Big 12 with either undefeated or 1 loss. And then I don't know if you're going to get 2 losses and then of course I'm forgetting Cincinnati. So Cincinnati, I think is undefeated and gets in, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Georgia's not getting in with 2 losses.
So if Georgia wants to get in with a loss to Alabama, they got to beat Florida tomorrow. That's just all there is to it. And now there's nothing saying Alabama can't lose to Georgia. Right. But if you get an undefeated Georgia versus a 1-loss Alabama team, essentially Georgia's playing with house money. Only thing Georgia would be doing there is that they would be trying to win to knock out Alabama so they wouldn't have to face them in the playoffs. Yeah. So we'll get your prediction tomorrow, but gut feeling, is this a higher scoring game to you, or is 51 too high in your book?
I think it's a higher scoring game. I got it clearing the over. And I'm at 65 points tomorrow. So
okay.
Yeah. And whether it's Florida scoring a couple late touchdowns or Georgia wearing Florida out and scoring a couple late touchdowns, I kind of think that's how it gets there. But I just, I don't trust this defense. I think Georgia hit a couple of big pass plays that were there last year, but they didn't have a quarterback that could execute once Bennett got knocked out. They were overthrowing guys by wide open guys by 20 yards last year. Like, take what Tennessee was doing game 1 and game 2 this year and make it look worse. That's what Georgia did against us last year. So we really got fortunate there, and Georgia was missing that huge defensive tackle. I can't remember his name, but number 99, he's back this year. They're missing a couple other guys, and don't feel sorry for Georgia because nobody felt sorry for us a few years ago when we had some guys hurt too. I just think both teams are pretty much at full strength, and Georgia's recruited a lot better than us the last few years, and they've got the product on the field to show it. The quarterback's just been, for them, if it's Bennett, he's been serviceable and hasn't had to really win games for them. I still don't think they've trailed all year. It doesn't feel like. And then for us, I guess he's going to trot out Emory Jones and use Richardson as the shot in the arm. I guess that's the game plan, it seems like, for tomorrow. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that or not. I'd rather see Richardson from the get-go and see how it goes. And if he doesn't play well, it's a big learning experience for him, and he'll be better next year for it. But if it's Emory Jones and he plays like he does against LSU, then, nothing's changed. So, we'll kind of see what happens. But I think the biggest thing that Georgia's defense obviously is lights out. It's going to be a fun matchup with us. in our offense, but I really want to see what this defense can do to stop Georgia's running game and keep them from hitting big plays.
You know, you've got other games on the docket. Michigan State, we'll get into that tomorrow. Another one that I'm looking at. First, let's do Florida State Clemson, and then I've got another one here in the state that I've got my eye on. Florida State Clemson, real quick. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it today because I know when Angela comes on, we'll spend more time than needed. But tomorrow, Florida State goes into Clemson. They're a 10-point underdog. Clemson's offense has not looked that great. Now, I am not sugarcoating and going to sit here and say that Florida State is looking great and they're a 3-game winning streak and look out and blah, blah, blah. They haven't played a great competition, but they have put guys in good positions to make plays. I think they can keep this game fairly close. I'm a little surprised that the line is as big as 10. I would have expected to be right at a touchdown. So that game intrigues me from a betting standpoint. I don't typically bet Florida State, but it does intrigue me on that. So I think Clemson is more going off a name alone and not going off the fact that Ugalele is just not that good of a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not a good enough quarterback to be on a college football top 4 team. I don't know if he's a good enough quarterback to be starting in the ACC at this point. He's been bad. That Clemson's defense is still phenomenal. The over-under is 47, and for a good reason. I think you might. I don't know what the weather's going to be. I haven't looked at that, so I always look at that before I take games like that. But my guess is that game is going to be just an ugly muck and mire game. I know you won't be able to see it because it's coming on the same time as. By the way, how stupid is that? They do this all the time. Florida State, Clemson, Florida, Georgia. They shouldn't be kicking off at the same exact time. Yeah. You've got the entire Southeast region wanting to watch those 4 teams. Even if it's a bad Florida State Clemson matchup, a Florida Georgia fan would want to see it pregame or postgame. What are they? They know Florida Georgia is going to be 3:30 Eastern. It's like that every single. It's very rare that that's not the game on CBS. That game should either be an ACC network Saturday night game or maybe do a noon kickoff. What say you on everything I just vomited out there?
No, I agree. I mean, it'd be nice to come home from Florida, Georgia, and put on Clemson FSU. I know other years, it used to be that on Florida Georgia Day was also South Carolina, Tennessee at night. So win or lose against Georgia, especially when we were usually rooting for South Carolina that night to go ahead and knock off Tennessee so we can make Atlanta reservations. So it is nice to come home from Florida, Georgia with a little headache and sometimes heartache and flip on another game to kind of fall asleep to. So yeah, it's dumb. I do think I think FSU's got a chance up there. I don't know if you saw Dilfer go all in on Dabo and Clemson and their program and not developing quarterbacks over the last 2 or 3 years. I guess he was saying that Lawrence actually regressed at Clemson. I don't know how much I believe that. I think it came off to me that Dilfer's a quarterback coach on the side. I know he helps out with that Elite 11. It almost came off as sour grapes.
Dilfer, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, it came off as sour grapes as far as
Dilfer sucked.
Right.
And I don't want to see him wave his Super Bowl ring in my face because none of that was him. They won in spite of Trent Dilfer. Trevor Dilfer sucked his whole career. If Trent Dilfer was any good, he would have never got unseated at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think his take was I think he worked with Ukulele and he worked with some of these other quarterbacks, and I think he feels like Clemson's making him look bad as a quarterbacks coach. And you get that with some of these quarterback coaches that they do it independently and they want to see their guy do well. And if their guy doesn't get on, then all of a sudden, sometimes the program gets ripped. But it felt like Dilfer was doing that. He has a point with DJ. I think he's nowhere near what he looked like last year, but he even had the gall to say that Lawrence didn't develop at Clemson. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Like I can't look at a quarterback and, I'm not that good where I can look at a quarterback and go, oh, his footwork could use a little work, or, you see stuff like release point and stuff like that. But he just went all in on this guy. Like they totally just destroyed Lawrence while he was there, and they're doing the same thing to DJ. And I don't buy that. I think Clemson's just fine. They just need a quarterback with a pulse, and they'd be fine. I was telling a Clemson fan the other day, if you put Pickett on Clemson, Clemson's undefeated. They're probably not having any issues with anybody.
Trent Dilfer, okay, when he was at Tampa Bay, left for free agency because he wasn't beating out Sean freaking King. So I have a hard time. Eric Zaire was making a threat at Dilfer's job. So I can't. And if you remember when Dilfer was at Tampa, they were absolutely terrible. They got rid of Dilfer. Sean King took over. They actually had a decent run that year. And then Brad Johnson
almost beat the Rams.
Right. Brad Johnson took over the helm and obviously got them to the Super Bowl championship. But Trent Dilfer, where the hell does he get off? Isn't he a high school football coach?
Well, that's the thing. He's that, and he's an Elite 11 coach, and I think he runs his own little quarterback business now. And I think DJ was one of his guys. And when he started to stink now in college football, people look at Dilfer. So Dilfer went on there just to defend himself. So that was kind of funny this week. It reeked of irony, like you said, because Dilfer wasn't any good as a pro. Really, he just kind of got lucky with a great defense.
I guess the old adage, if those who can't teach, because he could not.
Exactly. Like me teaching somebody how to swing a golf club or something.
Yeah, it would be like me out there go, well, this is how you fire a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. Well, I can't actually do it, but I'm gonna show you how to do it. It's like
exactly
what are you talking about, you moron. Oh my God. I missed that. I don't know where you got that hot take off of. It must have been Twitter or something, but
I'll send it to you.
Okay. I can just only imagine what Trent Dilfer is he on like a show or something? Is that where this is coming from? Or?
Yeah, he was. I forget what he was on. He was on
drunk in his backyard.
Yeah, he was on the set of somewhere. I don't know where it was, but yeah, that was interesting to be sure. We'll talk Michigan State tomorrow. I'll try and catch a little bit of that before we head down to the stadium. That'll be a good one. But yeah, this is a really good weekend for college.
The other one that we'll get more into tomorrow is we don't have time today, but Miami Pittsburgh. I'm curious because it's really a good slate of football tomorrow. But Pittsburgh is a 10-point favorite, and I think it's for good reason. But Miami got the big win last week. Now NC State had a ton of drops in that game. I almost wonder if that might be fool's gold. People out there rushing to take Miami plus the points, thinking they're going to, because that game's in Pittsburgh as well.
Right.
So what is your walk off for the day? I know you got to run.
Yeah, man, go Braves tonight, and we'll chat again tomorrow. But yeah, it should be a fun weekend of sports all around. And for once, I think I probably won't watch a lick of golf. Golf's in Bermuda, and there's a little time deal there. So no golf for me. We'll do football and basketball. I'm sorry, we'll do football and baseball this week, and go from there. But I'll chat with you tomorrow.
All right, brother. We'll see you tomorrow for Florida Georgia Day. We're gonna switch gears here in a second, and Justin Waller.
Fellas, I got a serious question. Where do you guys get it from?
Well, the doctor seemed to think I picked it up from one of the porta-johns at the carnival.
Give me one reason why you won't go vegan.
Bacon. A Superman colorist announced his plans to leave his role with DC Comics after the publisher's major overhaul of the character. The artist said during a recent live stream, quote, "What really pissed me off was saying truth, justice, and a better world. F that, it was truth, justice, and the American way."
Ask you a question. It's nice we got a witness here. How long you plan to keep this up, do you think?
My job?
Was it your job?
Perpetually, yeah.
It's your job in what way do you think?
I work for INF Photo.
And you live here?
Yes, I do.
So you're a local resident who shoots as a paparazzi in this town?
That's correct. Yeah. Just as you're a well-known actor who lives in this town. Yeah, we're all doing a job. Yeah.
You view that as a job you need to do?
It pays money, and it's a job, sure.
So you want everybody who lives here privately to live in some self-conscious life so you can make money?
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest with you, Mr. Baldwin, if you have a problem with me taking pictures, all you had to ever do was approach me and just ask me not to.
Don't take pictures of my wife.
Well, that's fine. Now that you've approached me and asked me, I respect you, and I will...
Don't take pictures of my wife.
Okay.
I don't give a care if you choke to death. Just don't take pictures of my wife.
Well, that's not nice to say. I'm being respectful. Well, then I will continue to take pictures, if that's the case. I was being respectful until you just told me to go choke to death, so... the way... Is that the way you drag your daughter around? Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't take my daughter...
As a shield? What do you mean?
I'm sorry, are you videoing?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Hey, with you never know.
It's hard to find a good job. I was on an interview. The lady asked me if I'd pass a drug test. I was like, if it's written. Yeah. She goes, you're going to need to pee in a cup. Yeah. I was like, in that case, I'm going to need a month to study for it.
So my girlfriend came and stayed the night the other night. No big deal, right? Well, she had to take a shower and shave her lady bits. Well, once she got done shaving her lady bits, she asked me where her lady aftershave is. Now, normally this is where common sense would kick in, but I ain't common and I ain't sensible. And due to me moving, we didn't know where it was. And she asked the question, hey, do you have anything? I said, yeah, I got aftershave. Now, you ladies might not be chuckling right now, but I know the men are. She says, does it hurt? I said, it's not that bad. I said, there's one catch. I get to put it on. Because I knew if she put it on, she would lightly tap it and just tap out. She said, okay. So I got this nice green bottle, 80-year-old man aftershaves. Makes you smell like a man named Vern. I've got a nice little handful and just start going, whoo-hoo, you should have heard the noises coming out of that bathroom.
Armchair.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
But what the hell, boy?
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Armchair. YouTube Live.
CBS Sports
Radio Station. The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station? It's everything.
I like everything. It's always on my radio. Never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays on CBS Radio, YouTube Live, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern Sports Talk. Good morning, Mr. Justin Waller.
Good morning. I don't know much, but I know one thing. There's not one, not two, but 3 World Series games this weekend in Atlanta. Congratulations, Bravos. Let's get this done.
Hi, I'm Mac McGee, and I don't know much, but I know one thing. If Atlanta would have lost the first game and won the second game, everyone would have been up in the air going, let's go, let's go. But we won the first game and lost the second game, and now you think the sky is falling in Atlanta, Georgia. If you win every game at home, you're the 2021 World Series champions, and they're not going to have the designated hitter rule. I do know that.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
Hey, howdy, hi, top of the morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. I'm Mac McGee, sitting alongside Justin Waller. Justin, how the hell are you this morning, sir?
Extremely tired, Mike. This has been a long week, but hey, man, I'm jacked up. I'm on adrenaline and ready to go, baby. It's I'm still trying to get the road crew to take a journey with me. We'll find out. You know how these last minute road trips happen, but if I can be successful, there may or may not be a little trip tonight. No tickets, but want to go down and at least see the Battery and be in the flesh and experience World Series.
You and the family.
I regret that I never got to do in the 90s.
You and the family think about going down there?
Oh, sure. If they're the commitments that I get from, yes, absolutely. I mean, and family, friends, the offers out to anyone.
Now you'd have to leave work early, obviously, because you're not making it down there.
Oh, no, sir. We could not do that. We would just have to compound all of our work into a smaller time frame, but we would make sure we got that done, sir.
There you go. Either that or go down tomorrow. All games are starting after 8:00 Eastern. So I do know this. Bring your binoculars because the Battery's going to be packed. It's going to be standing room only there. I have no desire to get in the middle of that, but I've got a feeling that if you get down there, you're basically going to be looking at, have a way to be able to watch the game because you're not going to be able to watch the game. I'll put it that way because they're going to have that thing staged off, and I'm excited to see what it looks like. You know, the thing that sucks about these games being on the national broadcast is you don't get the Braves live type thing going on, right? You don't get them sitting down there in the Battery because that would be absolutely phenomenal to see. But anyways, you do get the World Series, and I'm excited for that. I'm excited to see. I'm sure there'll be all kinds of video all over Twitter today, showing the Battery. So definitely we'll share that as soon as we find it. Yeah, it's been a long month, man, because doing these games, you don't realize how long these games are until you're doing them, and they're lasting 4+ hours because it's one thing, Justin, and I never thought I would.
Don't you pitch clock me. Don't you do it.
No, it's the game that Dusty Baker's the only one I've seen do it against Atlanta because I haven't done the other games. I did one other playoff game, but Dusty Baker does this thing, and it's perfectly legal, but it's annoying, where he'll send his catcher out to the mound, and then when he'll wait X amount of time, and then he'll start to come out to the mound, and he walks really slow, and then he waits for the umpire to come up, and then once the umpire comes up, then they'll make the pitching change. He's done that already 4 times in the series. It's annoying to me because there's got to be something that gets addressed in this in the off season. They're obviously not going to do anything now. And I know it seems like, well, it's only a few extra seconds. It really isn't. When you compound it all together, he's buying an extra 2 to 3 minutes, which just becomes, ridiculous. I think what they need to do is that if your manager's going to go to the mound, he needs to step onto the mound about the same time as the catcher. Because if not, then that needs to be counted as 2
mound visits.
Right.
And that's how you add a caveat like that and you stop it.
Right. Because that's the issue I have. I get why he's doing it because it's perfectly legal. And they never thought anything of it. But Snicker and company aren't sharp enough to pick up on that little caveat. I guarantee you're going to see it a lot in the weekend series because you're going to have no DH, which means there's going to be a lot of moving around of the bullpen and whatnot. And that to me is going to be fun to watch because first of all, it's not like Dusty Baker is new to any of this. He coached or managed in the National League for years. But I do think it's one of those things where you have to get used to it. Right. And so I do think Atlanta has a huge advantage at home, and they should win 2 of 3 games. If they don't win 2 of 3 games at home, even with the pitching woes and the pitching injuries, then we don't deserve to win this.
Yep.
I'm hoping.
I agree with you 100%.
I'm hoping for a sweep at home, and we don't have to go back to Atlanta. That's probably not realistic, right? 2 of 3. I'm not saying tonight's a must win, but you really don't want to lose tonight and then feel like you have to beat the Astros 3 of 4 games. And you've got Ian Anderson on the hill. Max Fried has already turned into a choke artist, so you can't rely on him. Ian Anderson has to go get a W tonight.
He has to, and you need it to be. You would love it to be flawless, but I mean, you need one deep 6 innings, 5-6 with 1-run ball, 2-run tops. Whatever you did with Altuve on Wednesday night, change the sequence. It's got something different. Don't repeat that.
Well, he's looking at a much different pitcher too, because first of all, not only is it righty lefty difference, but Ian Anderson throws a heavy low fastball, and they try to get you a change on the chase on the change. I think they'll do well against Altuve on that. Max Fried, as good as his stuff is, let's label him what he is. He throws a lollipop curveball that he hopes to get you off balance and then tries to bust you inside with the fastball. And if one or the other are not hitting, he becomes a lot easier. I'll tell you the only pitch that impressed the hell out of me with him, that slider that he threw was nasty, and he should have thrown that more. I think I really think he needs to think about this probably in the off season, but go heavier fastball slider, and then the lollipop curveball. Do it like Clayton Kershaw's always done it. Either it's the two strike and you're ahead pitch, or it's a great once in a while. So in other words, I don't want to see that pitch 25 times in a game. He needs to throw that curveball 10 to 15 times in a game.
Right now it's a tail. When you see it being overthrown, you know he's out. And I don't know why Snit's not already out there and got him. If we see it, how do you not know it?
Yeah, and the thing is, it's one of the worst parts about it is it's rarely in the strike zone. So when you see that ball balloon up and you don't have 2 strikes on yourself, why swing at it? Unless he's just laid it in there, batting practice style. But why swing at it? Just do what the majority been doing, been spitting on it and waiting on your fastball. He has a good fastball at around 93-ish. But it's not dominating. I think what he needs to add to his whole repertoire, this would make him almost unhittable, would be add a cutter. Add a nasty cutter. It would be just a tad tick lower than your fastball. And then you would have 2 pitches to go into the left-handers along with that slider. And then every once in a while be able to bail out with the right. Because one thing he's going to have to learn is throughout his career, Max Fried is going to face right-handed pitch hitting. They're not going to send a lot of lefties out, whether it's regular season or postseason, against that lefty because he's nasty. So, anyways, Atlanta's got a good chance to take a series lead tonight. I think they got Garcia, and I get that. But the first sign of trouble, Dusty's probably going to bail and get Garcia out of there, and that could cause an avalanche of the bullpen because they're in the same situation we're in. They're most likely in a back-to-back bullpen days. They're probably going to go Greinke tomorrow. And then after that, it'll be another type of bullpenish game. Maybe Odorizzi, but either way, even though those sound like starters to the naked ear, they haven't been going more than about 2 innings. So it's going to be bullpen. And I think you're seeing some high-scoring games because you're going to get bullpen games in a National League park where you're not, if your guy gets hot, you don't just let him go because you're like, I've got to get some runs. So it should be.
And to your point, this is a team that's not built to flip the roster. How do you get from the 8 to the 1 hole? How do you continue that inning? They're going to have to struggle and use their bench. And then it comes to who do you have left? And what did you set up with your roster prehand to handle this? Because like you said, if you're holding bats because you know you're going to be subbing pitchers, you got to have a delicate balance there.
And here's the biggest key. And I am going to do a pregame show tonight for all the breakdowns of both things, but keep an eye on this. Yordan Alvarez has been DHing. So you have to make a decision. Are you going to put Yordan Alvarez at first base, which is tricky, but it would be a lefty-righty matchup tonight. But Yordan Alvarez is not a first baseman by nature. He's basically a David Ortiz. Okay, he's a guy that if you try to put him at first, you're kind of cramming him in there. If you bench him, you're benching Gurriel, which is a pretty good bat of himself. So it's one or the other, because I don't think they're going to bench Brantley, not against a right-handed pitcher. They're not going to bench Tucker, and you can't put just anybody out there to play center field. So you're not just going to slide Tucker or Brantley over to play center and have Alvarez on the corner infield. So either Gurriel, who led the American League in batting, or Alvarez, who has been an absolute phenomenal hitter this entire series. Someone's riding the pine tonight.
I'm hoping it's Gurriel. I would like to see the lesser defenseman at first base, and hopefully we can rope him down the line all night long.
I will say this: I wouldn't mind seeing it being Alvarez, because that dude in Truist Park. When we see him in Truist Park, Braves Twitter's gonna be blowing up, going, "We got to go get him. We got to sign him."
Well, to your point, I think it's gonna be a high-scoring game. I'll take my odds that we're gonna have a lot of base runners with the lefties just smashing it down the line. I mean, it's not going to be an athletic first baseman that's covering ground and you're going to scoop those up.
And Jock Peterson will not be in the lineup. I guarantee you that. I guarantee it's going to be Soler. He's hit better. And you're gonna just hold Jock as that wild card, that pinch hitter. Unless there's an injury, I don't think Jock Peterson sees I don't think he sees. Maybe if they start Framber Valdez in Game 5. So I said back to back, but Valdez is probably going Game 5. Valdez, no, it'd be lefty matchup. So yeah, I don't think Jock Peterson sees the field in this series. I think he's going to be pinch hit boy, and hopefully he can get the magic back, because he hasn't been hitting well.
Well, I mean, that's honestly, what did you go get Jock Peterson for? That's what he's known for.
Right.
Clutch pitch hits.
Right. Joey, how are you, sir?
No, you guys talk about the Braves, and I still remember when we were doing our Cubs Sox show and during the summer, and the Braves were about 5 under, and they made some of these moves. I'm like, man, I just don't see this being a championship team, but good for them. And here we are. They're in the World Series 1-1. They beat the best team in the NL, and the Dodgers, to me, their biggest nemesis. Now they're on to the Houston Astros. It's been one heck of a ride. I'm willing to enjoy it with you guys and listen to Max. So it's going to be a good weekend between that and football, and I'm ready for it.
I remember wanting to throat punch Sean pretty much on a daily basis as long as I've known Sean, but particularly because it was before the Acuna injury. I believe it was the Ozuna injury. I'm almost positive. It might have been that, or it might have been d'Arnaud, but I think it was the Ozuna injury. And we were scuffling, and his text to me was like the next day or that evening. He goes, man, sometimes it's just not in the cards. I don't even know how much more Braves baseball I would watch this year if I were you.
Now you can go, ha!
We're not built the same, buddy, okay? You're not going to see me jump on some bandwagon and all of a sudden, because we all know Sean, we all love Sean, but you never know when he's going to show up with an Astros jersey on or something. But I was like, I'm not giving up on this team just because, you have, you're Detroit Tiger boy, and you're used to giving up on your team. No. And it was May. That was the biggest thing that I remember back when I texted it back. I tried to find it, but then I realized I had deleted a bunch of my texts, so I didn't have the history of it. But I remember my answer back at the time was, "It's freaking May." I didn't say freaking, but you can imagine. But I was like, "It's May. What are you talking about? What am I supposed to watch this summer if I'm not watching the Braves? What are we talking about?" So anyway, I'm not looking forward to Florida State football. If that's what you think, I'm just gonna lock it down. Let's do deep dives on the Knolls all year. So anyway, I was like, it's May, dude. I'm not giving up on, and thankfully Anthopoulos didn't give up on that team. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our picks, because if not, I mean, I could sit here and talk Braves baseball all day long. Justin, give me your first pick on your locks. Well, first give me your lock, and then we'll go from there.
I'm going to lock in with the over-under in the Titans-Colts game, and I'm going to take the over at 50.5.
Wow.
This will be a higher scoring game. 27-31. It's going to not be out of the park, but it will surpass 50.
You're saying 50.5?
50.5. Okay. I'll take the over.
That is a must win for the Colts. Is it not, Joey?
Oh, hey, we know after talking last week and now this week, it is a must win. You pretty much go down 4 games, even though it's only 3 in the loss column. You lost to them twice. The division would be over unless something colossal happened if they lose this Sunday.
I don't have it in front of me. The Colts, are they 3-4?
Correct. We're 3-4. We started 0-3.
So if they fell to 3-5, I will say this: it's not over wild card wise, because
correct
with the addition of the wild card, I could see. I think the West is going to beat up on themselves, and the North will do the same.
Yep.
And the East just sucks. You're going to get Buffalo, but the only other team I think you have to worry about out of that entire division was maybe New England. So, but the division would be over for sure.
Yep.
Because even with the long season. Anyways, Joey, what is your lock for the weekend?
My lock for the weekend is going to stay in the Big Ten country. I'm going to go to Michigan. And I see it. I have it as -4, but even if it's a little off from that, I'll take Michigan State, both undefeated. A big 11 o'clock Fox game with Gus Johnson. It's
so your audio broke up.
I'm going to lock up the Wolverines and get.
You're taking Michigan -4.
Yep. Take it. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha.
Sorry about that. I don't know my wife.
No. I was just making sure because I couldn't tell if you were saying Michigan or Michigan State on which one. So you're taking Michigan -4.
Correct.
I'm going to stay in Big Ten country. Dude, Penn State's getting 18.5 points. At some point, somebody's got to make a scare into Ohio State. They got to at least play in the same universe as them. So that'll be my lock this week. I don't think it's going to be a game where you're I just don't think it's going to be a shootout. So 18.5 points, I think they can cover that. I hope they can cover that. If not, they were talking about the playoffs a few weeks ago. They could be heading to the Tax Slayer Bowl here in Jacksonville.
I was debating that game too. That's just a lot of points.
Yeah, it is. Justin, what is your next pick?
I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I can't believe this. Tony, this is for you, buddy. I'm going to take the Florida Gators +14. I know Georgia's rolling. But I know that this is also a game and a series to where the unexpected happens and these two teams play each other close. So I'm going to take the 2 touchdowns and I'll take Florida. And Bulldog fans are laughing at me right now.
That smells too much like that Arkansas game. I'm staying away from that one this week, man. I just don't trust it. Joey, what is your pick?
My pick, I'm going to go to SEC country and take Ole Miss. They're getting points, against Auburn. The spread, I see it as 3 right now. I think Matt Corral, he's just having a really good season. And I know they're on the road, but they got to show up in big games too. So I'm going to take Ole Miss at Auburn and get the points.
Is that a night game?
7 o'clock your time. 7 o'clock.
Okay. So 7 o'clock Eastern.
Yep.
That's a good kick. Yeah. I'm showing 3 as well.
Okay. Yep. Lock it in.
That's an interesting one. My next one, I will go Florida, Georgia, but I'm taking the under 51 points. Tony's expecting a higher scoring game. I don't think Florida's going to move the ball on Georgia. And Georgia is perfectly happy with just taking the air out of the ball. So I don't know what that final score is going to be, but I smell like a 34-10 type thing where they're just going to methodically beat down Florida, and Florida's not going to be able to move the ball. So I'm going to take my chances on 51 being too high of a. Normally in college football, I would not go 51 or what are you nuts? They're going to be going up and down the field. College football, they outlawed defense years ago, but that Georgia defense is just that good. The only thing that could screw that up is if Florida starts throwing picks on their side of the field left and right, and Georgia's got like 7 yards to go every single possession. Justin, what is your third pick of this 9-pack of tall boys that we do here on?
Yeah, drinking heavy.
I'm gonna roll with the Kentucky Wildcats +1 rolling down into Mississippi State. I think Stoops has a better team, and I think they go in there. And
isn't that crazy? I saw that as well.
It's because of their history. I think they're 6-1, or they've lost. They've got a very bad record against Mississippi State. They're 1-6, I believe. Traditionally, they have not gone down there and done well.
Is it because they think that what the hell is his name? Leach is going to be all hopped up on candy corn. Is that what they think is going on? Because
he's going to wear his costume.
Have you heard his rant on candy corn?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, by the way, people who hate candy corn, I don't want to hear your rich, privileged butts telling me about how you didn't eat candy corn as a kid. Some of us folks, man, I put it out on the Facebook thing yesterday. The struggle was real. Yeah, the struggle was real. Some of us had to eat candy corn because that's the only thing grandma kept around the house. And you're like, well, it's either this or, eating some, Brussels sprouts. So let's go.
When a young chubby boy wants a piece of candy in May, you got to go get one of the little pumpkins or candy corn that's left in the dish. I mean, it just is what it is. I like the pumpkins. I'm not going to lie. I've evolved on the candy corn and the candy corn pumpkins.
I like them all. I know they're just pure junk. I know there's nothing to them, but that's what candy is. So does it really matter? And for that matter, I love circus peanuts. Leave circus peanuts alone.
Who's trashing circus peanuts? Come on.
The same losers that trash candy corns, because in their world, when they went to go get candy or when they went trick-or-treating, they lived in neighborhoods where they gave them full-size candy bars and away you go. You took that candy corn or that circus peanut well before you took whatever the hell that candy was. It was Halloween colored that was wrapped in the wax. In the wax paper,
the little orange and black ones, the little peanut butter things.
Yeah, they say they're peanut butter, but sometimes you get them and they taste like not peanut butter.
I know what you're talking about.
So it depends on the brand, right? Because there's times where you're like, dude, this is pretty good, and there's other times you're like, dude, what am I eating? Did they just melt down a green bean? Like, what is this? So yeah, those things are a trick. That's what they are, because sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But yeah. Circus peanuts, man.
All right, favorite Halloween candy, just off the cuff. Each one of you, what do you got? I'll throw it out there. Mine is going to make you laugh, but dots. I like the dots.
Yeah, I see. Anything gummy like I never liked.
I like Reese's peanut butter cup.
Yeah, that's a go-to, but that's also the rich kid thing, dude. Like you know.
Well, no. What about
how many Reese's peanut butter cups did you have around? I didn't when I was a kid. Like you hoped and prayed you would open up your bag after you go trick or treating. And go, dude, there's a Reese's in here. Yeah, 9 times out of 10 it was the stupid wax crap. And back then they would throw a handful of candy corn at you. They didn't think nothing of it back then because there wasn't COVID or anything.
The worst is like when you got a ruler or like something school related. I feel like you got a finger trap or something. I'm here for candy. Come on, man.
Those folks got egged. A ruler. I'm gonna show you the ruler.
Or the dentist in the neighborhoods handing out toothbrushes. You're like, come on, come on, dude. Had that happen. True story.
I would hit the corner, turn that thing to a shank, and go right back to his.
Mac McGee's going to turn into Michael Myers later today.
Oh, the new one that's out. I'm watching that thing today.
It's good. I liked it a lot.
I'm looking forward to it. I was supposed to watch it yesterday, and some things didn't go my way. My wife will not watch horror movies, so she got home by the time I got done with the editing for the show, and I was like, well, it's too late now, so it's a wrap. I did watch the tail end of that, or the majority of the second half of the Green Bay game, which was phenomenal game. That interception that guy made at the end of the game, what the heck was that, man? I had to I had to watch that replay like 7 times. Like, did I just see what I thought I saw?
Well, did AJ Green think it was a run play or something?
He must have, man. He must have, because he was absolutely in the dude's chest. And he's like, "What are you doing? You're picking the ball off and ending the game."
Oh, game's over.
I was on a route, which I don't know. With that little time left, I don't think they had any timeouts either. No, they didn't. Why, you would think that you would be running the ball, but he did, and it was a pick. It was a pick, and it helped me hit the under. I like that. The under was 50.
You like that?
Oh, dude, I loved it. 52 was 52, or 51.5 was the over under. The score was 45. A touchdown. I'm screwed. That 4th and inches stop by when Green Bay had the ball prior to that was a game changer, baby. I was like, I'm back, baby. I'm back. Let's go. Joey, real quick before we have to jump off here, what is your third college pick?
No shocker. I'm going to take a homer pick. I wouldn't be an Areola if I didn't. I'm going to do Notre Dame at home, given the points up to North Carolina. I see it at 3.5, but
yeah,
I'm going to lock it in. Notre Dame, give up the points at home.
And then real quick, I'm going to take Florida State plus 10. I don't think Clemson's that good. And I think it's going to be an ugly game that Clemson probably wins. But Ugalele or Ugalele or whatever the hell his name is, I think he's going to throw at least 2 interceptions. So, Justin, what is your walk-off for the day, sir?
Stay safe, everyone. Big, busy weekend. Just enjoy. Braves Nation. Let's do this thing. Happy Halloween. Everybody be safe. And, man, hopefully we have great things next week.
We're going to be back in a flash. Yes, sir. Great college football weekend and World Series. And then we're going to do some NFL on the other side. We'll be back in a flash on the Armchair Quarterbacks.
Hey, what we always call on the game, PlayStation game, what we always call? Heads or tails on the PlayStation game. All right, then. You should have told him tails. I thought you told him. No, I told you. I thought you knew the special teams always coach. They don't play the PlayStation like us.
Don't miss a moment of heart-stopping NFL coverage on Armchair Quarterback Radio.
Riggin. 3rd and 3. We'll see a pickup sometime on the right side, possibly. Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Only 12 seconds left to play third quarter. Here's Marcus Allen cutting back upfield, and Marcus Allen could be gone. 74 yards for Marcus Allen. The quiet man of this football team, Scott Norwood. He can fire the shot heard round the world now. Here we go with 8 seconds to play. High drama here on the Super Bowl. But in the end, got the distance.
Armchair.
This helpful instructional message from the National Association of People Who Have Trouble Walking and Chewing Gum at the same time. Step, chew. Step, chew. Step, chew.
World air quality is at an all-time low.
But hey, that doesn't mean you can't have a little fun. New from Mattel, it's the greenhouse gas gun. Do you hate the snowman next door? Use the greenhouse gas gun. Want to piss off an entire room full of tree huggers? Use the greenhouse gas gun. There is simply no end to the amount of fun and respiratory disease you can have with the greenhouse gas gun.
Armchair.
We are the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
He only has 3 rings.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
This is what friendship means to me. Having so much crap on someone that they can't ever reveal the crap they have on you.
Hey there, pal. First draft?
How can you tell?
Look, there's a few things you're going to want to know. Kickers go fast. You're going to take one early. And don't worry about running backs. You can always trade for one later.
Cool, thanks.
And one more thing. It's good to have you here. You're my friend.
Armchair.
It all starts with just one thing. Glass jars can be reused to store food and spices, as a holder for combs and brushes in the bathroom, or as a container for plants and homemade candles. in addition to simply being recycled. Find tips and more at onethingus.com.
They don't play the PlayStation like us. They don't play it like that. You told him. That's what I said. They don't play the PlayStation like us. They don't play it like us.
Good morning. Welcome back to CBS Sports Radio. People have asked me about the studio. Normally have Halloween stuff up. I will have it up this weekend. Saturday, Sunday. Of course, Sunday's actually Halloween. Welcome back here. Joey, are you going as anything this Halloween-y?
You know, this Halloween, I'm going to go by the parents and pass out some candy, so I don't want to scare the kids. I might put a bag on my face, paper bag it, and call myself a Dolphins fan.
Or a Cubs fan?
Oh, geez, yeah, I could call myself a Cubs fan.
I was about to say, if you don't want to scare any of the kids, don't go as a Cubs pitcher. We could probably use some help though. If you want to send some guys our way that aren't playing golf or whatever, we're starting to turn into a MASH unit in Atlanta. It's like that, dude. I tell you right now, that was a gut punch. Doing that game, I'm telling you, it took me 3 or 4 innings to get the wind back in me when Morton went down. I'm going to give some credit where credit is due to that Braves team. When you lose a guy like that in a game 1 of a World Series, I fully expected them to blow that lead. And maybe it was a hangover effect the next day, knowing that you don't have Morton, but I expected them to blow that lead that day. So since Morton has gotten hurt, that offense hasn't looked good, but I think they bounced back tonight in front of the home crowd. Okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say, such a gutsy performance. I mean, even though obviously he had to come out of the game to pitch on that leg for a while and just to show his toughness. That's all the Braves done this second half. And I mean, they're a really resilient team. I keep thinking they're going to get out sometimes against some of these better rosters, you might say, but they just keep fighting. It's just been an unbelievable story. And I'm glad to be on the ride with y'all.
Real quick, I did put it in the comments, but in case you didn't see the comments, there was a question here by James. Do I trade D-Hop and Kyler Murray for CeeDee Lamb and Josh Allen? I say yes.
Wow, what a trade that is.
Yeah, I mean, that's a blockbuster, but I think that Josh Allen, even better things are to come, and he's already top of the world, and CeeDee Lamb should go off. D-Hop does D-Hop things like he did last night where he'll vanish sometime.
Correct. That bothered me so much.
And I also like it from the standpoint is you're not committed to the Arizona Cardinals in this game. In other words, if they have a tough matchup, it doesn't affect both your best quarterback and your best receiver, right?
Yep.
So I like splitting that up. But depending on where your team is right now, you may want to stay where you're at because if you're having a good season, you probably are if you have those two guys. But if it's me, I like shaking it up, and I like buying low and selling high. And I think, I definitely think that you're going to see eventually Buffalo's going to Buffalo. And what I mean by that is they're going to go out and abandon the running game as they get closer. They're still trying to run the ball right now. They don't do a very good job, but they're trying to run the ball, right?
Yeah, and they should see some easier defenses just being in the division they're in versus Arizona, who's got some tougher defenses.
Right. So that is my take on that. I can pull up their schedules here in a minute, but we'll go ahead and move on to the NFL picks. Curious to see where you're going for your first pick. Who are you going for your first pick in the National Football League?
Yeah, well, you got me on the Atlanta-Miami game last week. We went opposite on that. What a wild, high-scoring, weird game that was. But moving on to this week, I'm going to take the LA Chargers at home against New England. I see Chargers -4.5, even if it's a little different than that. Fine with me. I think they're going to come out playing strong. I think they're coming off their bye week too. New England's got to travel. Yeah, New England's got to travel. We all know how that could be sometimes. So I'm going to take the LA Chargers at home, giving up the points.
-4.5 is what we're letting right now. So LA Chargers,
yep,
-4.5. It looks like, so if he doesn't start, don't do this. But it looks like right now that Tyrod Taylor is going to start on Sunday. They're going to be at home. I get it. They're going to be against the Rams, but they're going to be at home and they're getting their quarterback back. This is my quarterback. He looked pretty good. And you're giving me 13.5 points, and they finally traded away Ingram so they can go do and be what they should be, which be pretty just chucking it all over the field. Tyrod Taylor, I think, keeps them close enough, +14.5. I love that Houston game this week. Lock it in.
Lock it up.
What is your next game?
I'm going to go to I can't believe the Colts are favorite, so I'm just going over the spreads. That one's weird to me. I'm staying away from that game. I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road at Cleveland. They're coming off a bye week as well. Mike Tomlin wasn't very happy when he got asked the USC question this week. I think he installed some energy into the team off the bye week, and they come out hot. It will be a close game, probably an ugly game in Cleveland with the injuries and people they have. So I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers going on the road to Cleveland.
+3.5.
Correct.
Okay, so back to what we were talking about. Down the stretch, assuming that you're not playing in week 18 of your fantasy playoffs. Buffalo. Now, for the next few weeks, because if you're going to make this trade, you better do it now. Josh Allen is about to play the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Jets, back to back to back. He's going to throw for like 3,000 yards in those games. So you better get him now. After that, it gets a little tough. You get the Colts, the Saints, and the Patriots, and the Bucks, and the Panthers. And then the Patriots again, which I do believe is difficult.
Yep.
If you can make it to the championship game, you're at home against the Falcons. I'm liking that. And I think Josh Allen will be good enough at the Patriots and at home against the Panthers in the playoffs if you have to play all 3 weeks.
And like you said, they're going to stop running the ball soon. It's just what they do.
Right. Who was the other guy? The other guy was CeeDee Lamb, right?
Yep, correct.
So looking at that down the stretch, he's got a chance to really go off. In the playoffs, it's Giants, Redskins, or Washington football team, and Cardinals. Cardinals game, by the way, is in Dallas. Okay. You got a chance to put some big time points up there. You also have to look at what he's got coming up. Vikings, Falcons, Chiefs, Washington. He's getting twice. Those defenses are trash. And then the other team that we were looking at was Arizona, because both quarterback and receiver down the stretch. Arizona in the playoffs is going to play the Lions. So you like that. But then there's the Colts and the Cowboys, two pretty decent defenses. And that Cowboys game, once again, is on the road. The Colts game, I think he'll put up decent numbers, but it's still, if the Colts are still in the conversation, it's a decent defense. Down the stretch, though, starting next week, at the 49ers, Panthers, at the Seahawks, at the Bears, Rams, it really doesn't let up until you get to the fantasy playoffs. And even in the fantasy playoffs, that's an early kickoff, by the way, at Detroit. That smells like a game that could be 16-19. But anyways, all in all, I take my chances and I take Josh Allen and D-Hop and I trade Kyler Murray and CeeDee Lamb
with you
and Allen, and I trade D-Hop and Kyler Murray. Because once again, I like not having. It's different if it's a daily lineup, but when you're talking about a year-long lineup, I don't really love having my two best players on the same team. Because man, if you have a bad week, if that offense struggles, or they whatever for whatever reason that weekend, every touchdown goes on the ground to James Conner, which, oh, by the way, it did last night, then you're screwed. Unless Connor's your running back, you're going to be up the creek. So anyways, we'll put a cap on that. I just wanted to address the schedule they have coming back. All right, the next one, I'm going off of advice of a big-time sportsbook guy in the New York area.
Oh, boy.
And this might be green color glasses. But he's saying, with all the numbers, and I listened to it quite a bit yesterday, he's saying take the Jets in the 11 points. They're at home against the Bengals. I know it sounds crazy. This is one of the ones I'm like, I hate this pick, but I'm going to take it. And I'm going to put my money on it. This guy's usually pretty spot on. When he does his, forget what he calls it, but it's kind of like a lock, but he doesn't do it every week. So he'll have a handful of these throughout the year that he loves. This one he absolutely loves. He locked it in at 10.5. It's already It's already up to 11. And he says he just absolutely loves it. He's talking about putting money on the money line for the Jets to upset the Bengals. I don't buy any of that. But he's saying that the line's overinflated because it's going to be White as opposed to Wilson behind center. And that White now with the full week is going to look a lot better. I mean, I'm like, whatever, dude. You know what? I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not going to go nuts and put the mortgage on it. But I'm going to throw a few bones on it and just say, you know what, man?
Throw some cheddar in there.
This guy only throws these out about 5 times a year, I'm telling you. And he's got about an 80% clip that he hits on these. So it's worth it to me to go ahead and grab.
I might do that myself.
I'm just saying, man, it's one of those ones you're like, that is stupid. And then Sunday afternoon, we're all going to be going, can you believe the Jets beat the Bengals by 17? And you're going to be like, what the hell happened? And that guy's going to be going 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I'm like, oh, dude, I should have listened to him. So, and this is a guy that doesn't go by his whim, his fanhood, anything like that. This guy breaks it down, and he says he absolutely loves it. He said everything that he has looked at has his score around a 4 to 5 point advantage for the Bengals, and the lines that he typically goes with, it's more like a field goal. And that's why he's going to take not only the points in a big way, but he's also going to lay some cheddar on the money line. I like that. It's a little too rich for my blood to put money line on the Jets at home against the Bengals, who've looked phenomenal. But then again, this is, I think the other thing that's playing into this, from my understanding, is that, let me look at the Bengals schedule, is that it's a trap game because they just had the big win against Baltimore. And yeah, next week they're at home against the Browns.
Yep.
And they're on the road this week to New York. And there's just a belief system that there's going to be regression. So that's the end of my spiel. That's what I'm going to be selling it to y'all. But this guy hits on his picks, and I'm gonna stick with it. I'm like, whatever.
As long as he's not related to Steven Troche, we're good.
That poor guy can't. He cannot get a win.
Love you, Steven. That just every week I agree with his picks too, and it's like But the 5-0, 80%.
He's like over 7 now.
Yeah,
terrible.
We got a 61.7% weight rate over the past 6 years. We got to keep that.
What we need to start doing is that someone else needs to start countering his pick. And that way it evens it out.
We have to start offsetting.
Who are you taking? I'm going the other direction. That's what we have to start doing.
Who's your lock of the day? Broncos. Great. I'm taking Washington football team.
I mean, that's what's we have to do. That way we know someone's going to hit, and we don't keep getting crushed.
That's too funny. Sorry.
He's got the jinx on him this week.
I know. Hopefully, I jinx him in the right direction.
All right. So, what is your third pick?
Yeah, Seattle. To me, they got to come up strong at home this week. I know they laid an egg last week, but they're home against Jacksonville. If they don't win now, giving up 3.5, I have it as I see. I'm still gonna give the points even with the hook. They need this one at home badly. It's must-win mode. If Russell Wilson's going to come back soon, which I believe he is, Geno Smith's got to pull out one of these games, and I think this is the one he pulls out.
I need that defense to show up too, because I have to stream their defense in a bunch of leagues.
Yeah.
The other one, okay, so I'm gonna throw one out at you. Okay. And this is a game that I'm just going off of the history of this series. I'm going to take the Saints +5 at home against Tampa. And I don't necessarily think the Saints are going to win, but the Bucs have not played well in that building. They just haven't.
Nope.
I think Mark Ingram, who, by the way, they say that he's going to be a full go.
He's going to be able to play? Wow.
Yeah, because Sean Payton was asked about it, and he said, absolutely.
Well, that's a big plus.
Because, I mean, think about it. He's not learning anything new. He knows their playbook.
Correct.
So that's a big plus because you can't keep giving the ball 322 times to Kamara. That guy's been known to get injured, and I think that's why they made the big move.
That's going to be a good game, though. I mean, like you said, Bucs kind of travel in New Orleans.
It makes me nervous because the Bucs have looked so good,
right?
And the Saints have looked like the Saints.
But everybody's got, the Saints just got to play big. Sean Payton needs this one. If they think they're in a division race, which much people don't think they are, because Tampa Bay's so good, they have to win this one. Then they'd have the same number of losses. So to me, if for a division race, it's a must win for the Saints if they think they have any time to hang around in the NFC South.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the big picture of it, if the Saints win.
That's what I'm saying. They're right there, and that's a sneaky 5-2 team.
They'd be a half game back, but you got to look at. I look at the other direction. They'd be a half game up because they'd have the tiebreaker on them, right?
Yep. And they'd still play one more time later in the season.
Right. That's what I was double checking. When is that game? That game's in. That's got to be a Sunday night or Thursday night game. It's an 8:20 kickoff. Must be a Sunday night game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sunday night game in Tampa. And so I do think Tampa rights the ship when they get them back home. But look, man, this is a long season. As good as Tampa is, you're bound to lay an egg, and giving up 5 on the road in that dome. I feel like the Saints are due to pull off an upset and get everyone all freaking out and overreacting Monday morning, and it's going to be much ado about nothing because then the Bucs are going to rattle off like 5 wins in a row, and everyone go, oh yeah, I guess Tom Brady isn't old. But this seems like a game where they could struggle on the road. We got a few more minutes. Are there other games that have got your eye? I've got a few.
One that does catch my eye that I'm intrigued by is actually, I'm going to stick it in my hometown is Chicago. That's an ugly game. 49ers just came off a bad loss. The Bears just came off a terrible loss. San Fran's -4 on the road. To me, you got to take it's going to be in ugly conditions in Chicago this weekend. It's going to be cold. To me, I would take the Bears and the over in that game. The over-under is at 39.5. So if I am a betting man in Chicago, for once, I know my Bears fans usually bet against you guys, but I'm going to take those 4 points at home. I don't think San Fran's a good team. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo has much time as a starting quarterback left in this league. The Bears are not doing so hot either, but I'm going to take the Bears with the points in the over.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the game that kind of has me intrigued is I don't see how in any stage or form that the Dolphins are going to hang with the Bills. It's
Dolphins.
I know it's a huge spread, and it's a divisional game. It's a rivalry game. They lost 35-0 to these clowns at home, beginning of the season. Why is that? Miami hasn't looked good since then.
Miami's been trash. They actually might be the worst team in the NFL since they won. Like, you got me on that one last week. Like I said, I mean, Tua looks good here and there, but there's just something wrong with that Dolphins team, and I can't quite figure it out. Maybe it's just a bunch of garbage. I don't know.
I think it's going to be just absolutely a boat race. And I don't think it's a game that Buffalo is going to overlook because it's a home game against a divisional opponent. And Tua, what would you say? 3 interceptions, probably.
Yep. Hey,
and what do you think rushing wise? 60 yards total?
Yeah.
So that means that they're going to have to try to play catch up with the Bills. Only way that the Bills lose this game or don't cover the spread is if they struggle early turning over the ball and it kept Miami in the game. But other than that, man, I know it's a lot of points to give in the NFL, but that game's got my eye.
Is there something I don't know about in Tennessee with injuries or something why the Colts are favored? I know it's going to be a good game and a close matchup. No, I know it's at home. The Titans, though, those 2 wins they came off of, I mean, Buffalo and Kansas City, where they dominated Kansas City. I was just a little bit surprised to see it's been swinging, but now I see Colts -2.5. But like you said, it's a division game. It's in Indianapolis, so I guess that's not too big of a surprise. Now, that being said, obviously it would be a homer pick of me not to pick the Colts. I think they'll, it's going to come down to a field goal either way. What do you think? You think that's a close one, or you think the Titans slowly leak away at the end with King Henry?
The fan wants me to think that the Titans are going to win that game, but I don't think you got to take into consideration it's on the road. I think the Colts probably get that W. I'm steering away from that game. And I don't have a strong feeling about that over under. I know Justin likes it. 51 sounds about right to me. So right now, Justin would be right because the team totals is a 27-24.5 victory. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Which is 51.5. And right now the over under is 51.
Right.
So technically, but that seems about right. I think the Colts probably, I bet this game isn't as close as the line indicates. I bet the Colts end up, if I was going to bet anything, it'd be the Colts -2 because the Colts are at home. It's a desperation game. They absolutely have to win this game, and winning by 2 in the NFL. I mean, if you don't win by 2, then you're talking about a nail biter, and I don't think it's going to be a nail biter. So
right.
That's a big one. On the docket, normally I'd be all jumping all over it. Maybe if Tennessee was a 4-5 point underdog, I would take Tennessee. I just don't think 2 is not enough. The most I would do with this, if I ever took the Titans, it would have to be a tease. Give me an extra 6, make it an 8-point spread, and then find another game where I'm like, okay, this team is barely favored, but I'm pretty sure they're going to win. That Monday night game too, Kansas City giving up 10 to the Giants. We all know the Giants stink. Also know something else. Kansas City hasn't looked good against anybody. Why are they giving up 10 points? Why are they giving up 10 points?
Their defense
shootout. I see a shootout in the game. Daniel Jones, I have to stream him in a couple of leagues. I'm going all in on Daniel Jones. I streamed him in about 6 or 7 of my 32 leagues. I was like, whatever, dude. Monday Night Football, give me something to pull for, and let's get us an old-fashioned shootout. Something that gets skated over with Daniel Jones if you do have to stream. That guy gets about 40 yards rushing a game and sneaks into the end zone every once in a while. So I think he could have a total of about 3 touchdowns, if not more, and he's going to get well over 200 yards rushing and probably get 200 yards passing and probably get 50 yards rushing. Kansas City defense is terrible.
It's so trash.
Kansas City will win that game, but man, that is a big, big spread.
Yeah, the way Kansas City has looked, I mean, defensively has been atrocious. The throws usually that goes Mahomes' way are going the other way now. They got to get it together now. If they can't get it together home against the Giants, they have a lot bigger problems than people think on their hands.
Amen to that. Well, we're coming up on it, sir. What is your walk-off for the day?
Yeah, my walk-off for today is, hey, we're in the World Series. We got a few games left to go. If you haven't tuned in, check it out now 1-to-1. Go to YouTube, hit up our guy, Mac McGee. It's been a lot of slam-a-dam-a-ding-dongs lately, so keep enjoying that. But let's go Colts on that note. I got to go with my boys. I know we got a lot of Titans country over here. It's a must-win. Carson Wentz, please come up big. We need you badly, and we'll be talking about it next week. So go Colts, go Braves, and have a great weekend, my man.
All right, brother. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk that World Series. So get ready. We'll be back in a flash here on the Armchair Quarterbacks World Series and a couple other things that we got in store for you on the other side of this break. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to CBS Radio, and of course, find us on YouTube Live.
You're listening to CBS Sports Radio. We are all sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Strong opinions and your phone calls. Expect it here. CBS Sports Radio.
The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live. SEC, ACC, and Big Ten coverage like no other. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
Hey, Jacksonville, winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com/radio today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Get your Sunday football morning started off right with the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Your Sunday morning kickoff show where we tackle your NFL lines out in the desert. A 61.2% win rate over the last 6 years. Against the spread, over, under, money line, you name it. And we dive into the world of fantasy football year-long and your DFS payouts. The only true Southern football kickoff show that talks the spreads in Vegas, your DFS and fantasy, in your year-long quest to win that fantasy football championship. Only on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. It's the Handicappers on Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube, 10 a.m. Eastern to noon Eastern. Sundays, all NFL season long.
At Jewelers Mutual, we're a little obsessed with jewelry. Obsessed like auctioneers with talking fast.
50, we're going to hit
Pop stars with auto-tune. And dentists with asking questions.
So, how did he propose?
After they've put their hands in your mouth.
Great.
Yes, we've made jewelry our obsession for over 100 years. We love it so much, we named our kids Ruby, Amber, and Opal.
Venti soy latte for Opal?
At Jewelers Mutual, we insure jewelry and only jewelry, which is why people who are also obsessed with jewelry trust us with theirs.
Saturday mornings, 8:30 Eastern. Dixie Football Nation is back and better than ever. We've got Tony Agolini, Matt Carr, Tones Ariola, Bobby and Angelo, along with Mac McGee this fall. Dixie Football Nation heads to the gridiron, talking ACC, SEC, the Big Ten, and all the big games throughout the college football land. That's Dixie Football Nation, 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, Saturday mornings on the Armchair Quarterback Show's YouTube channel, going live, or catch the instant replay.
Take the road less traveled in the newly redesigned Hyundai Santa Fe. With available H-Track all-wheel drive to help you get off the beaten path a little further together, and intuitive safety features that can help you see what's waiting around the bend. Plus, with generous room for 5 and comfortable available Napa leather seating, you can go for more drives as a family without driving each other crazy. Find new adventures together in the Hyundai Santa Fe.
I'm Amy Lawrence, and I'm up late, always, after hours, hanging out with you on CBS Sports Radio. Check it out, 2 a.m. Eastern, 11 p.m. Pacific.
Take me out to the ball game. Get caught up with the big stories from around the world in sports in just a few minutes. It's Take Me Out to the Ball Game today, weekdays. Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube. Baseball, football, basketball, whatever's trending in the world of sports, it's on Take Me Out to the Ball Game today in just a few minutes. It drops weekdays, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, as Wake Up Y'all is ending. Take Me Out to the Ball Game today on the Armchair Quarterbacks YouTube channel. Take me out to the ball game. The Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live, covering the AFC South and NFC South along with the rest of the NFL. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
CBS Sports Radio, your home for all things sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, coast to coast. Great sports talk expected here. CBS Sports Radio.
You're in Braves country.
Let's get you set. Are you ready for Game 3 in Hotlanta, GA, home of your Atlanta Braves? Braves are tied with the Houston Astros. 1 game apiece in a best-of-7 series. So now what do you have? You got a best-of-5 series as we head to Atlanta, and 3 are in Atlanta, the next 3. And then, of course, the next 2, if need be, are going to be in Houston. We're going to try to take care of that this weekend and not have to go back to Houston. Let's win them all hunt home. It starts tonight. Game 3 starters. You're going to get Garcia versus Anderson. And I think what you're looking at here is which starter can go longer. Ian Anderson has been phenomenal. But he's also been up and down as far as how many innings he can give you. Look at the postseason. You like the fact that he's 1-0 with a 2.25 ERA, but the other thing that jumps out at you, he's only gone 12 innings. That's not going to necessarily do it for the Rexford, New York native. You're talking about what you're actually talking about here. He goes 4 innings. That puts a lot of load on the bullpen. And so I think Snicker's going to have a backup plan across the board. If Anderson can only go 3-4 innings, where do you go from there? Now, your bullpen is rested because
You didn't put any of your studs, so to speak, into game number 2. The game got away. That is the good news about that game. The good news about the game, if the Braves would have lost like a 7-6 shootout in extra innings, you would have used a lot of your bullpen pieces, and you'd be in a lot of trouble going into game 3. You would then at that point have to have Ian Anderson to go as long as possible and just hope he can keep the game close. But if you look at let's rewind a bit and go back to that game 2. I think a little bit is the hangover of knowing that Charlie Morton's done for the season. You know, when you were sitting in that dugout in game 1, you'd probably gotten a pretty good report early on, but it probably hadn't quite sunk in. And oh, by the way, in game 1, remember, Atlanta jumped out to a 5-0 lead. Charlie Morton comes out of the game. Atlanta only scores 1 more run. So that was kind of the beginning of the gut punch, and then they only scored 2 in Wednesday's game. So the offense hasn't done well, but I think, look, you get the day off, you come home, you're ready to roll, the crowd's going to be behind you. All that's going to come into play. Every bit of it's going to come into play. And so now what we have is a game where you're going to get the home crowd behind you. Remember, the Braves have not lost it at Truist Park in the playoffs yet. That's huge. That's bigger than what folks may realize. That is huge. So they're going to be looking at the weather real quick for the weekend. Let's go ahead and set that up because obviously that's going to play into effect. You're looking at what's going to be happening here in the coming hours, and there's a good chance of rain tonight. Now, they're hoping it clears up, but we're talking about a 40% chance of rain. There could be rain during the game. Here's hoping that we miss all that junk and the clouds part and we get a beautiful game of baseball, but there's a good chance that we're going to get some rain. I, for one, hope that if there's going to be a rain delay, it happens pre-game and not mid-game, because it's going to mess up your pitchers. You can't really afford to have that at this point if you're Atlanta. It doesn't play well into the hands of Houston either, but Houston didn't just lose their guy for game number 1 from game number 1. Now, Houston is dealing with it. They're dealing with their own injuries. McCullers should have won already in this series. And if McCullers had gone in this series, who knows if the Braves even win game 1. So there's a lot of things that play into that. But for the forecast for Saturday, by the way, it looks much better. Saturday doesn't look like we're going to run into a whole lot of rain. So we're looking at the rain for Saturday and Sunday. It's less likely as far as game time. In fact, Sunday looks phenomenal. But tonight you're looking at a high in the 50s and a little bit of rain. That could play into the hands of the Atlanta Braves, because at least the Braves do play outdoors. They do not play in a dome. So they're a little more used to this now. It's a little cooler than what they're normally used to, but at least the Braves are used to playing in the elements. So we'll see how that plays into effect. And we'll take a look at the lineups once they're released and all that. We'll look at the lineups a little bit later. But looking at what you're typically going to get going on here, facing a right-handed pitcher like Garcia, who, by the way, if you look at what he's done in the postseason compared to what he's done in the regular season, he has not looked that great except for his previous start. He has 9 1/3 inning pitch and a 9.8, 9.64 ERA. For his career, he's got 11 innings pitched and a 7.94 ERA. So has he found something, or was that just a goofy game that he had last time out? And was he able to adjust to the Red Sox batters, or did he just happen to have it, was on fire? Against the Red Sox the other night, he went 5 2/3, no earned run, 7 strikeouts. Looked phenomenal. Looked absolutely phenomenal. But if you look at what he's done all in all, go back to the game that he pitched before that in the playoffs, and Garcia got absolutely roasted in that game. Garcia against the Red Sox, check out this line score. Garcia pitched 1 inning of baseball and gave up 5 earned runs, 2 hits, gave up a grand slam. That was the game where the Red Sox hit 2 grand slams in back-to-back innings. It was Garcia and Odorizzi, which, by the way, we'll see Odorizzi later on in the this weekend at some point. They haven't announced the starting pitchers deep into the weekend, but you're going to see Odorizzi in some form or fashion. So looking at tonight's game, it's going to be obviously Anderson versus Garcia. And we just hope that we get the bad Garcia, not the phenomenal Garcia. I'm expecting to get a little bit in between. A guy that we can get to, and we're going to have to take advantage of it. Because Sunday, I'm assuming we're going to see Framber Valdez, and I just don't expect to see Framber Valdez to be as bad as he was in game 1. If he is, that's phenomenal, and we're probably going to win the series. But I expect to see a harder fight. But what does that look like for the Atlanta Braves going forward this weekend? Tucker Davis is probably going to get a start. And I don't think they'll announce that until the last dog is dead. They're going to wait and wait and wait to try to have to make them, or they might do a thing where they open up with Jesse Chavez one game, and then Tucker Davidson is going to go in to one of these games, is going to be expected to pitch multiple innings in his appearance. 2, hopefully 3. In a perfect scenario, 4. Because he's going to be there to try to eat some innings. If we can build the bridge to the bullpen tonight, what you would like to see is Ian Anderson go 5 innings. 6 obviously would be phenomenal, and then it would set up for Jackson to Matzik to Smith to close the game out. But let's say he can only go 5. I think you got to put Minter in there. I know they would like to save Minter for one of these games to go long. But if you have the opportunity to win tonight and take the series lead, you got to do whatever you can and then worry about tomorrow. I've never been a big fan of overcoaching, meaning overmanaging your team, meaning worrying about what's going to happen on Saturday and Sunday today. It's different if it's a regular season and you're trying to build this to worry because you're sitting in the middle of May and you're not trying to crush your bullpen as you're about to go on a 10-game road trip, right? But now we're at the end. And if you play your cards perfectly, you only got 3 more games left. Any way you look at it, if you can get the W tonight, put your best foot forward. And then you go for your best foot forward tomorrow night. And Sunday night, you just kind of piece it together. You do as good as you can, but you piece it together. I do think Atlanta gets the win tonight. I think that crowd's going to be behind them, even in the rain. I think the crowd's going to be behind them, and we're going to get a live crowd in Atlanta. Hopefully, we don't get a whole lot of rain. But with the rain, so you might end up with a lower scoring game. But the biggest thing that I see, the key to Atlanta's success, is Houston's going to have to go a man down tonight. They don't have their DH. Braves don't typically have a DH. They're used to platooning. They're used to bringing guys off the bench to pinch hit. But typically, Houston, other than when they play on the road, interleague play, they don't even really use that as a term anymore, but I'll still use it, interleague play. Houston is built to have that DH, and they're not going to have it tonight. It'll also be interesting to me to see how Dusty and company manage their bullpen in a 3-game series on the road with no DH. It takes a bigger toll on you managing, because every decision you make is under a microscope, especially in the World Series. And if you're not used to managing the bullpen with no DH, now look, Dusty's got experience in the National League, so it's not like he's never done this before. But I'm talking about managing this roster. It's going to be a different animal. And you get a guy in the American League Park, and he's pitching well, and he's on a roll. Well, I'm going to take, for instance, perfect example was Tuesday night, game 1. And I know this is Atlanta, not Houston, but Charlie Morton came out of the game after the injury, and then Minter stayed in for 2 2/3. He only gave up 1 earned run, pitched well. In a pinch when he wasn't expected to go almost 3 innings, a guy that normally goes 1, pitching phenomenal, I thought. Luke Jackson, 1 2/3 innings. Matzik, got him 4 outs. That doesn't necessarily play out in a National League Park, because when your batters roll around to the pitcher spot, however you double switch or you keep the lineup the same, you got to make big decisions on whether or not these guys stay in the game, or if you're going to keep rolling. In the American League, it's so much easier to manage it in the junior circuit, because you just let a guy pitch as long as he's pitching well, and then you pull him out. So that's going to be key when Dusty decides to deploy his big bopper each night, because he may not go with the same lineup that he's going to use tonight as he will tomorrow night or Sunday night. So when does he decide to deploy that big bopper? You take Snicker, typically when he's used, I'm going to take the beginning of the playoffs as an example. When he is used Jock Peterson, it's been in big moments. And it's not necessarily every time did he use him in the waiting to use his bopper in the bottom of the 8th, top of the 8th, 9th inning. If there were guys on base and they had an opportunity, Jock Peterson came in. So we're going to see, and we don't know if Snicker's going to roll with this same lineup tomorrow, which will probably be a bullpen day for Houston. And then, of course, Sunday, definitely you're going to see some kind of a difference because it's going to be a left-handed starter in Framber Valdez. But knowing when to deploy that pinch hitter and just having a gut feeling and it coming through is a big deal. Look, one of the biggest things that you're going to see when they bring the pinch hitters in, and let's say you've got an opportunity to bring in, I'll give you an example. Let's say sometime in this series, Jock Peterson's on your bench. The bases are loaded. There's one away. The game's tied or you're down by one, or even you could even be up by one. But there's bases loaded. There's nobody out. I'm going to go with nobody out. And the pitcher spot's coming up. And the pitcher's pitched pretty well. One of the smartest things you could do would be to tell the pitcher, don't swing. I don't want to see that bat move one bit. You go up there and take a strikeout if you have to. And that's okay because the line's ready to roll over and we'll find a way to get these runs in. Or you can go the other way and you deploy your big pinch hitter off the bench and say it's now or never. I don't care about bringing him in to pitch in the 9th inning, the 8th inning, because here we are in the 5th inning. We got a chance to ambush this team. And there's not always just one right answer. It really comes down to how did it play out? You rolled that dice and did you come up snake eyes? Or did you come up with a victory? So that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. Let's go ahead and switch gears here and do the turn back time and walk-offs and all that stuff as we conclude another Armchair Quarterback radio show. Cannot wait for tonight's game. As here's hoping Atlanta wins at least 2. We're not having to go back. First of all, if they get swept at home, that's just going to be miserable for the Atlanta fan base. It's also just not good for the game. You'd like to see a longer series, but you definitely don't want to see a team get swept at home. If the Braves win 2 of 3, I think they've got a good chance of winning the World Series because that means you just got to come up with one good game in Houston. And that's not out of the realm of possibility. But if they don't win 2 of 3, if they lose 2 of 3, it becomes dire straits because you don't have Charlie Morton to lean back on. Depending on how they deploy the Max Fried, he hasn't looked good. Tonight is a huge, huge, huge game for the Braves franchise, not just for Ian Anderson, for the Braves franchise. If you can win this World Series with that talent that they have that hasn't even played, man, the sky's the limit what the Braves could do over the next few years. It's going to be a really fun time in the Southeast for baseball. If they lose, I still think they're going to be good. But, man, you could start that narrative again that you had the 90s. Oh, you can't win the big one, all that nonsense. And which never really applies to me in baseball. It's so many moving parts in that sport. In football, I buy that narrative. In basketball, I definitely buy that narrative. You only have a few players, and if you're not making it happen. But baseball, just like hockey, there's so many moving parts on a team. There's a lot of moving parts on a football team. But when you saw like the Buffalo Bills lose 4 consecutive Super Bowls with all the talent that they had, you had to start buying into the, man, this team just can't win the big one. I don't buy it as much as I do in baseball. All those years when the Dodgers struggled to win the big one, I was like, man, they're still a really good team. And eventually they're going to kick the door through, and they did in 2020. All right, time to turn back time. This is an interesting one. On this date in 1889, the National League's New York Giants defeat the Brooklyn Bridegrooms of the American Association. Now, look, it wasn't considered a World Series, but it was essentially a World Championship. And in fact, at the time, it was referred to as a World Championship Series. This is a precursor to your modern day World Series. But the 9-game, and back then they did a best of 9. The 9-game postseason matchup is the very first Subway Series. And of course, it took place at the Big Apple. Why? Because New York, for all intents and purposes, New York City is the birthplace of baseball, of American baseball. People can get twisted and argue it all they want. Baseball was born in New York City. That's why it's still huge to this day. I lived in New York, and I'm telling you right now, people may think, oh, well, is this a Knicks city? Is this a Jet city, a Giant city? What is this city really enamored with? Hockey, if the hockey team is doing well. Make no mistake about it. That city is a baseball city. And whatever baseball team is playing well and doing well, that's who the entire city gets engulfed in. It's the same thing in Boston. Boston's not that far from New York, and baseball has been bigger in those areas much longer than anything else. Reason why college football is king in the South, we didn't have anything for decades. We didn't get a baseball team until 1966. And for you young whippersnappers, that seems like a long time ago. But for those older generations, guys like my dad, they grew up without a baseball team. He grew up listening to the Dodgers on AM radio because that was the closest team he could get. There were no Houston Astros. Colt 45s came in the league, I think, in 62. They became the Astros in 65. But you're talking about the 1960s before you had anything essentially considered a Southern team. Because anything when you start talking about the Missouri area, whatnot, that might be south of the Mason-Dixon line, but that's a Midwest team. So some people down here in the actual South, some would pull for the Cardinals, some would pull for the Dodgers back in those days. But baseball is king in New York. Same thing as in Boston. The Patriots doing well is all cute and everything. And they'll jump on that bandwagon. But if the Red Sox are winning, shut the front door. You talk to any Boston fan up there, let the Red Sox be having a really good spring, and the Celtics and Bruins who are in the playoffs, they get a little bit forgotten about comparatively. Folks will still go to those games, but they're still on the street. They're talking Boston baseball. It's crazy. When I lived up there in New York, I could not believe it. I lived in New York in a time period where the Giants were really good. They were really good. They won the Super Bowl when I was up there. You know what everyone wanted to know? In December? Not what the Giants were doing. What are the Yankees and the Mets going to do in the offseason? The bullpens are trashed. Forget about it. That's all you heard. All right. Birthdays.
It's your birthday today. What does that mean? Yes, I'll try to explain that on this day. It was the first time.
Kind of a low one today. We'll go ahead and grab you a couple ones. Let's go grab one of someone who's not with us anymore, and then we'll go to ones that are still kicking.
Man, there's always so many cricketers on this list. It's unbelievable. How about let's go with here's one may or may not know. Claude Brochu. Anyone remember him? He was an executive for the Montreal Expos and had a big hand in bringing the Expos to Montreal. And for that matter, I do believe the Expos will have a team at some point in this decade. Remember Jesse Barfield? Now, if you're a baseball fan, you got to know Jesse Barfield. First of all, he was the 1986 home run leader. Blue Jays, Yankees. Big power hitter. He was on those Bobby Cox Blue Jays teams. Big time power hitter. Here's another one that's relevant in Nashville, Tennessee. Played for many teams. What about R.A. Dickey? R.A. Dickey was born in Nashville, Tennessee. He's 47 years old. Is he the last of the great knuckleballers? You hear of a few guys here and there, but there's not a quote-unquote knuckleballer anymore. And Dickey last pitched for the Atlanta Braves in 2017. I liked watching Dickey pitch. I hated when found out that he didn't get another go the following year. Check this out. In 2017, he was only 10-10, fair enough, but he had a 4.26 ERA, which isn't terrible. He had 31 starts. That dude went to the post. That's what I love the most about a knuckleball pitcher. He's not necessarily someone that you're going to deploy in the playoffs, but he can help that bullpen. He can eat those innings because there's such a small amount of stress put on that arm when you throw the knuckleballer. If you can get a good knuckleballer, he doesn't have to be great. The Tim Wakefields, the R.A. Dickies. He doesn't have to be Necro. He's so valuable to a team because of what he can do for that team. So happy birthday, R.A. Dickey. He is a guy, man, that I don't think ever got his due. I don't think he should be in any kind of Hall of Fame or anything like that, but maybe in one of these teams' Hall of Fames. He played for Texas for quite a while. Mets. I thought he was pretty darn good with the Mets, to be honest with you. I thought it was foolish when the Mets didn't bring him back. They made the World Series anyways, but he was also on those Toronto teams that made deep runs into the playoffs. Memory serves me correct. I believe he was on that Toronto team with the Jose Bautista, jack to the jaw, that whole time period. It was somewhere in that area that he was on that team. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Have a great weekend. We'll be on the call tonight, 8:00 Eastern, and get ready for game number 3 of the World Series, Atlanta versus Houston. The Southern Series, by the way, the numbers came in on the viewership. First of all, it was up from last year, but everyone expected that because no one really got into sports watching as much as you thought they would. They did initially, and then it kind of tapered off because people, you look at NFL, all the sports, their viewership was down because people like one of the things that they like about watching live games is seeing the reaction of the fans. And so when you don't have fans, it feels weird. I think it depressed people. But the World Series last year actually had fans in the stands. The Braves Astros first 2 games have dwarfed those numbers. But I think you have 2 things involved. A, pandemic. B, Tampa Bay was in it. As much as I do like Tampa Bay, it's not a big market. Now it's down considerably from 2019.
but it's up tremendously from last year. So take that for what you will. We all know that for you to have huge numbers in the World Series or anything for that matter outside of the Super Bowl, you have to have the Yorks, LA's, Boston. You have to have one of them represented, which is why baseball will always try to push away the salary cap. We'll see you tonight. Tomorrow morning, college football kickoff show, probably 8:30. I don't know if I'm getting up early and doing the much of a pregame because I'm going to be exhausted because I know how these games are. And then Sunday, 10 a.m. to noon on the Armchair Quarterbacks Handicappers. We will see you. Have a great weekend.
It's Friday, working stiffs. Everybody.
4, 3, 2, 1. Happy weekend!
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get another cigarette.